Chapter 11. Last Months in Germany. Ruth walked away from the Kastners' apartment with nothing but a small suitcase containing her belongings. She had wondered if she should leave the special bracelet behind, but in the end had decided to keep it. It was raining hard when she left, and she had a bad cold. "Where am I? Lost, I think. Where can I go? This cough's so bad, getting worse. An hour, no, more like 2 it must be, 2 hours since I left. They'll be back by now, reading my letter. Heavens, this rain! Drops as big as pfennigs. I'm getting drenched. So wet, so cold. Mind that puddle. Hans Werner might be sorry, feel bad, quite bad, perhaps, about me going. I said I was sorry in my letter. Don't know what for, not really. There must have been something, though. I must have upset them somehow. Why wouldn't they speak to me, tell me what I had done wrong? Why? They were both so good to me. Concerts, theatre, restaurants, even her lovely bracelet, and bringing me to Berlin, too. So kind. What happened? Why? What went wrong? I'm burning, so hot, cold, shivery. I'm ill, and all this stuff to carry. My arm is aching, bags too heavy. Rain, the bags soaking it up, getting heavier. So wet, so cold. Where will I go? Where can I go? He doesn't love me. He couldn't love me. Wouldn't have treated me like that, not if he did. Did he ever? Yes, he did. I'm sure he did. I'm sure. I still love him forever. Maybe he thought, no, his mother, maybe she thought I wasn't good enough for him, not clever enough, not educated enough, perhaps. Well, you know, that's true, don't you, Ruth? You always felt it, all those clever people, never good enough for them, not really. Just lulled by their kindness and your own dreams. Thinking it didn't matter, but it did. It did. Not rich enough? No family. No, not that. I couldn't bear that. I don't think that mattered, not to him. Coughing worse, can hardly breathe. Perhaps I'll die. Would they care? Would anyone be sad? Would it matter to anyone, really? Where can I go? Can't think. Dresden? Hans is there. He'd help. Can't, though. No money. I don't know anyone. Not here. Not in Berlin. Feet so wet. My shoes must be leaking. Can't go on much further. Need shelter. Wonder what they think, reading my letter. Relief that I've gone? Will they worry about me? He'll be gone soon anyway, to England, so far away. Then what? She'll be on her own, like me, alone. Rain down my neck, my back, no shelter anywhere. Mustn't attract attention, Gestapo. Don't want them checking up on me, asking me questions. Who are you, Fräulein? Where do you live? What could I say? Wouldn't tell them, I wouldn't give them away to that lot. Perhaps they thought I'd be safer without them, because they have Jewish papers and I don't. Were they a danger to me? Or was I a danger to them? Safer without me? Perhaps they would be. They could have said. I could have made arrangements if I'd had time and some money. Oh, it's so dark. I'm so cold, hungry, empty, stomachache, so empty. Rain tastes good. I'm so tired, shivery, empty. Someone's following. Footsteps. Well, who cares? If this is the end for me, who'd notice? Nobody cares. Nowhere to go. River. Yes. Nowhere but the river. Where? Where is it? I'm not sure which way. Which way? It's the best thing, the only thing. If only I knew which way. Liebe Gott, help me. I'm frightened, trembling. I feel strange, empty, sleepy, in a dream. Dreaming of nothing, of not being. Not being couldn't be as bad as this cold cough. Those footsteps again, closer now. Doesn't sound like police. Let them come. If I'm murdered, die here, now, well, that's it. Then I won't need the river. They've stopped. Mein Gott, I'm scared. Can't run, can't move. Shaking. Oh, it's a woman, her hand on my arm. She's saying something. What? Go home? She says, go home? Oh, dear, that's funny. My face is wet, but it's not only from the rain. The woman who rescued Ruth from near suicide that night was Frau Fürst, an opera singer. She took her to her apartment in Fürstenallee, gave her a hot drink, food, and a warm bed. It took a few days for Ruth to recover from the flu, and Frau Fürst used those days to quiz her unexpected guest. When she heard her story and found that the girl really had nowhere to go, she had a proposal to make. My husband is a Jew. Because of that, I am no longer allowed to employ servants. If you would like to look after the apartment for me, I would gladly give you a place to stay. Ruth looked at her in disbelief. You'd let me stay here? Yes, my dear Ruth, but we must be careful. We will tell everyone that you are my cousin come up from the country. Of course, I'll be very careful. So for a few months, Ruth had sanctuary in the opera singer's apartment, until even that became too dangerous for them both. After she left Frau Fürst, Ruth found herself a job as a children's nanny to a baby and a little boy. The health shop was my last job in Germany. There was a law preventing Jews to work, but I was a bit daring. I didn't look Jewish. My identity card didn't say I was Jewish. I didn't tell anyone that I had any Jewish connections. I didn't have any Jewish connections, not really. But by blood, I was half Jewish. Of course, I was first-degree Mischling by Hitler's rules, but I didn't tell anyone. Mischling, literally mongrel, the names the Nazis gave to people of mixed Jewish and Aryan race. A first-degree Mischling meant that one of your parents was pure Jewish blood. Herr and Frau Müller, a pleasant young couple, lived in a fourth-floor flat above their health food shop. They abhorred the National Socialists, but had to be careful because some of their employees were Nazis and insisted on putting up Hitler's picture in their shop. Ruth was not a particularly daring person, but she showed her subversive side by sometimes hanging her coat over his picture. The other employees were angry with her, and she could have been in serious trouble about it. Luckily, they chose to believe her innocent. Oh dear, I didn't realize. Ruth could appear very naive when she chose to. One of the regular customers was an Englishwoman who often suggested that Ruth should come to her place to learn a little English. But Ruth was too restless and uneasy and never went there. However, the woman told her that if she ever went to England, she should call on her mother, Lady Macnaghten. She would be so pleased to see you. I have to stay here in Germany. I'm married to a German and have my children here. Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, when Jewish businesses were attacked. 9th of November, 1938, was a turning point for Ruth as it was for so many. It shocked her at last into realizing the danger of staying in Germany. I remember being in a bus or tram and going through Berlin in daytime, and things were being thrown out of windows, and somebody said, "That's the Jewish something, some Jewish place." And then the shop windows were smashed because they belonged to Jewish shopkeepers. There were lots of mattresses and office stuff, old papers and books thrown into the huge yard. And the fires were slowly dying and smoking, and I was scared. I was scared. I didn't say anything to anybody on the bus. You didn't dare to say anything unless you were fascist. From then on, things became progressively worse. Ruth described it as a time of great anxiety, not just for her. She thought that Germany itself was in a state of high anxiety. I remember that one couldn't go anywhere, theatres, cinemas. I wouldn't have wanted to. I identified with Jews all the time, rather than with the Germans, the Aryans. Then, in May, she somehow received news of the departure of her beloved Hans Werner, sent by his mother to England. This made her determined to leave too. She began to make plans of her own. She left the Müllers and went to stay with her mother's sister, Tante Elli, who she had discovered had an apartment in Berlin. She told her that she was hoping to leave Germany and go to England, but didn't know how to go about getting there. "While I'm here, Tante Elli, tell me about my father. How did he meet my mother? What really happened? Why did our mother never want us?" I think that the little she knew about her father and how his relationship with her mother came about came from that meeting with her Tante Elli in 1939. On her aunt's advice, Ruth wrote to the Hausmutter at the children's home. According to Hans's biography, they went together to a party to celebrate the move of the children's home to new premises near to the Hauptbahnhof in Dresden. It was here that Ruth spoke to the Hausmutter. It turned out that she knew someone in Switzerland who could help her to get a visa, and he had a contact at the British Home Office who might find her a job in Britain. This contact asked around his colleagues, and a civil servant, Mr. Ritchie, agreed to take Ruth on as a maid. Ruth took her small savings and money from selling all the beautiful hand-stitched linen she had made for her bottom drawer while at the Klinkovs, and bought herself a one-way ticket to England. If only she had had the nerve to ask them, the Klinkovs would have been only too pleased to pay her fare. But she didn't find this out until after the war, when she got back in touch with them. What a brave stepping out it must have been for this lonely young woman, to leave her country and everything she knew behind, and to seek her fortune in a new land where she couldn't speak the language and knew nobody. But what was the alternative for her? She became one of the lucky ones, the ones that got away. Now it's June 1939. Ruth stands before a huge desk in the hall of the Central Police Station. A black uniformed official looks through her papers, barking questions. Around her, other nervous hopefuls are going through the same interrogation process at other desks. She answers him, trying not to look afraid. "Half Jewish. My father was a Russian Jew, my mother German, Aryan German." He writes, "Mischling, first degree." "Family?" "No, I don't have any family." "Job?" "Yes, as you see from that letter there, I have a job to go to in England." After more grilling, he stamps her papers and hands them to her, giving her the Nazi salute. "Heil Hitler!" "Heil Hitler!" she responds, as she must. Turning to go, she clutches the precious permit to her chest. Along the corridor leading to the street hang red banners with black swastikas. As she hurries beneath them towards sunlight at the far end, she becomes aware of jack-booted feet beating a staccato rhythm behind her. She walks straight ahead. She dares not look back. Her thumping heart races. He's getting nearer, nearer, too near. A heavy hand falls on her shoulder. Her breath catches in her throat. So she was too late after all. She looks up. The officer who interrogates her towers above her. He bends down until his face is very close to hers. "All the best, Fräulein." His voice is little more than a murmur. "But get out of Germany as quickly as you can. And viel Glück." Good luck. He steps away from her, stands stiffly erect, his heels click, and he salutes. Heil Hitler! The train hisses steam, anxious like its passengers to cross the border into Holland. The German guard beckons to the young woman next in line. "Papers, Fräulein?" Pretty girl, he thinks. Nice boobs. He glances at her visa. 25 years old, half Jew. Saumensch, literally sow person. "Open your bag." His hands move sensuously through her folded underwear, hoping to embarrass her. She has a New Testament. Surprising. He lingers over it, flicking through its pages, prolonging the sensation of her fear, relishing the rapid rise and fall of her breasts through the taut fabric of her blouse. "Everything is in order. You may board the train." She stays for a week in The Hague in a big house where her Dutch friend Steffi is a house guest, and spends her last days on the continent of Europe enjoying a peaceful interlude amongst warm sand dunes with her host's dog waiting for the day of her departure. There's an old photograph of her and the dog sitting on the beach with the words Scheveningen, 1st July 39 on the back. She wears a smart suit with a fashionably short skirt, strappy sandals, and a white blouse. In her buttonhole there appears to be a large flower, and her handbag lies beside her in the sand. A few days later it is time to leave. It's a lovely day, July the 5th, 1939. There are many youngsters on the boat, young Jewish women, provided with picnics by their mother. They're eating Wurst, sausage, sandwiches and bananas, but Ruth has nothing to eat. She doesn't dare spend her money on food and watches them enviously. I remember the seagulls following us and, leaving more and more and more in the sea. It was the first time I saw the sea in my life. It was an uncertain feeling, because everything was uncertain. Another country, another language. I didn't know how they would help me once I arrived. I didn't dare to eat because I only had 10 marks. I was thirsty, hungry, but I didn't buy anything because I had just 10 marks. They all had only 10 marks. It was all that was allowed. Whether they smuggled anything, no, it was too risky. They went through everything, the controls out of Germany, through books. I had a Bible. They practically went through every leaf of that Bible. All Ruth really wants is to find Hans Werner. She knows that he's somewhere in London and hopes that they may get together again. She stands on deck, watching the horizon for her first sight of England. She's proud of her appearance, her long jacket, the short skirt in a fine greyish-blue fabric that she made for herself in the tailoring class in Berlin, and under it a toning blouse with a generous bow at the neck. She may have nothing at all in the world, but she feels smart. At last she detects a thin, dark line between the sea and reddening sky, and watches with rising excitement as the boat approaches the English coast.